I'd like to start out by reading a letter from Ashley Williamson, daughter of Steve and Marta, who was in Rwanda with Peace Corps. I suppose one could say my life's adventure started with my grandpa Bill. March 16, 1986, I took my very first steps to him on my first birthday. I was even dreadfully sick, which speaks for his ever-encouraging sense of being. Hearing he was sick while I was still continuing my adventures in Rwanda broke my heart. My last few conversations with him were as normal as ever, though I could sense he was struggling. "Hi, darling," he said to me. "How is Rwanda? You're stiff. You're still there, right?" He always knew what was happening in our lives. "Hi, Grandpa, how are you? I miss you." "Yeah, I'm still here," I replied. "When are you coming back? Soon?" he asked me. "Yeah, around December, so kind of soon." "I'll see you then, okay?" I inquired. Sure, I'll see you then, Ash," he said, his breathing heavy and deep. "Okay, I really love you, Grandpa. I miss you a lot. I hope you're okay," I told him. "I love you, darling. I'll see you soon," he said. I guess he got to see me sooner than we both thought. I'm sad and sorry I can't be here today to honor the great man that my Grandpa Williamson was. But in my own way, I'm continuing something that he himself began. I will continue walking to remember his soft, honest smile. I will continue walking to remember his gentle soul. I will continue walking to remember his special way of connecting with people. I will continue walking to remember the story, unbending man he was for his wife. I will continue walking to remember his trap-like memory for all things family. I will continue walking to remember. And so my first steps through my last will hold him close. I miss you, Grandpa. We all do. We love you so much. We know you could feel it. I'm blessed to have a saint like you to watch over me, and I have found tranquility in knowing you're closer to me than ever before. How do we sum up Uncle Bill's life? He was born March 12, 1929, and passed August 16, 2011. He was preceded in death by his mother and father, Merle and Lena Williamson, his brother Ed and his wife Katie, and two brother-in-laws, Leon Payne and Les Hamilton. He has 6 children, 12 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren, numerous nephews, nieces, and cousins, all who care for him very much. Why? He has a wonderful legacy full of love from his children, grandchildren, friends, and co-workers. He has departed this life and is now with Christ. The earthly labor is over. He has been a great example to all of us how we should live our lives. He was never a person who preached about how others should live. He did that with his example. He was a simple man. His first occupation was an auto mechanic and owner of a service station. He made a good living and put all his children through Catholic high school, but was never going to be rich. He never wanted a big house, fancy cars, or clothes. None of that appealed to him. When he got older and could afford it, we would take him to nice places to eat, and his favorite was fat earnings. All food was gauged on how it compares to fat earnings. He did not like Italian food. He hated sushi, had too much food like that in Korea. No Mongolian barbecue for him. That is not the way to fix meat and potatoes. He was easy to buy clothes for, especially in the 70s. The hardest choice was the color of the jumpsuit to buy. He'd probably still be wearing them if he could find them. He was a devoted husband, married for 58 years. He loved Betty and definitely demonstrated fulfillment of the vow, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do we part. He was with Betty every step of the way as her Alzheimer's disease progressed. He kept her at home with him as long as it was safe to do so. After moving her to Larksville Place Care Center, he would rarely miss a day of seeing her. We all knew that if he wanted to know where Dad was between 3 and 7, it would be the nursing home. He would feed her with patience and care and tuck her in each night with a kiss. He missed many events, so he would be able to take care of her. We would occasionally take him to a Wingnuts ball game, but had to be late since we could not go until after Betty was in bed. The longest he stayed away from the nursing home was during the last 2 weeks of his life, when he was too ill to drive and did not feel well enough to leave home. About the only other time we could get him to stay away for a few days when all the boys went on their annual trip to Arizona for March spring training. He loved baseball. He also loved Kelvin and the loving staff of Larksville, the only people he would trust to care for Betty. He used to play baseball when he was younger. He and his brother Ed played together in high school and on semi-pro teams after high school. We have a copy of an article in which the Williamson brothers are back in Wichita to play ball again. Once he had a family, he became a spectator and loved to go to games at Lawrence Dumont Stadium with his dad and friends. We all wanted to go watch Uncle Ed play to see if he would get into a fight, as Ed was a feisty infielder. Bill played softball for St. Margaret Mary's men's club team for many years. He also coached many of our Little League and softball teams. Since Ann was so much younger than the rest, we had more time to coach with teams and loved doing so. About 4 years ago, we started taking him to Arizona, the boys did, to see the Royals at spring training. He loved going, and it was previously mentioned, he was one of the few events he would attend and would miss seeing Mom at the nursing home for a few days. On his 79th birthday, he got to meet George Brett. Afterwards, he stated that it was the best day of his life, as George was his all-time favorite ball player. Unfortunately, his health would not let him go to Arizona this last March, but he had just as good a time going to Oklahoma City to see the Thunder play basketball. He loved to watch and talk about sports. Steve would call him every weekend, and after the conversation ended, Marta would ask what we were talking about, and he would describe Dad's opinions on how bad the Royals were doing or how well the Chiefs played that day, or some other sports-related issue. Occasionally, they would catch up on what was going on in the family. He loved his family, not just the immediate family, but his extended family. He loved the family gatherings at the holidays at the Laddick and Vocal reunion. He cared very much for his parents. We all remember the bedside vigils when Grandma and Grandpa Williamson died. He loved his brother, Ed, very much. Of course, they had some disagreements. We can remember a couple of good arguments that they had when we were kids. One time they were at Grandma's house for Sunday dinner and got into such a heated discussion they were going to go out front to fight. All of us cousins were each betting on which one would win. The fight never happened, and they kissed and made up. Uncle Bill went to work for Ed as a meat cutter in one of his grocery stores. He really liked working for Ed. He was extremely sad when Ed passed away. At his funeral, he stayed at the gravesite until the last shovel of dirt covered the grave. He also felt honored to have been the executor of Ed's estate. He also loved his 2 sisters very much, as well as all his nephews and nieces. He always looked forward to the holiday gatherings and wanted to be sure they would continue. His children all know how much he loved them and how proud he was of each of them. He was delighted in finally getting a baby girl after 5 boys. He loved seeing his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren. He loved the fire truck that Jeremiah arranged for his 80th birthday party. In his final years, an arthritic knee, prostate, bladder and lung cancer, and emphysema limited his physical activities. His children and grandchildren frequently helped him with errands and other chores. He was also fortunate to have one of the greatest neighbors anyone could ever have in Bill and Val Nolan. For several years, they helped with household chores such as mowing the lawn, tending gardens, raking leaves, watching the pets, and running errands. To comfort us, we believe he wanted to hear these words from St. Paul, letter to the Philippines. Brothers and sisters, Christ will be magnified in my body, whether by life or by death. For to me, life is Christ, and death is gain. If I go on living in the flesh, that means fruitful labor for me. And I do not know which I shall choose. I am caught between the two. I long to depart this life and be with Christ, for that is far better. Yet that I remain in the flesh is more necessary for your benefit. Only conduct yourselves in a way worthy of the gospel of Christ. That is what he would tell us today. Conduct yourselves in a way worthy of the gospel of Christ. He certainly lived his life that way.